Years ago, in the bustling town of Olimo, a couple named EFE and Timi lived a life filled with love and contentment. Their union was envied by many young, hard-working, and devoted to each other. They had everything anyone could wish for: a cozy home, stable jobs, and an unshakable bond. Yet, their hearts ached with one longing: they had no child. For 7 years, EFE and Timi prayed, fasted, and visited doctors. But each result was the same: nothing is wrong. Be patient, it will happen. EFE often broke down during their prayers, and Timi would hold her hand, saying, "God's time is the best. Our miracle is on the way." One sunny afternoon, EFE burst into Timi's office, tears streaming down her face. "Timi, it's happening," she exclaimed, clutching a pregnancy test in her hand. Timi's jaw dropped. He leaped up from his chair, sweeping her into a tight embrace. "Thank you, Lord," he shouted. The news spread quickly. Family, friends, and even neighbors shared in their joy. EFE's pregnancy was a blessing, and the entire community seemed to celebrate it. The next 9 months were a whirlwind of preparation. They painted the baby's room a soft blue and filled it with toys, clothes, and love. When the big day finally arrived, EFE gave birth to a healthy baby boy. "He's perfect," Timi whispered, tears streaming down his face as he cradled the tiny bundle. They named him Daro, meaning joyful, because his arrival brought immeasurable happiness. The first few months with Daro were magical. Visitors flooded their home, bringing gifts and blessings. "Such a handsome boy," said one of their neighbors, Mrs. Saleway, as she kissed Daro's chubby cheeks. Others pressed crisp notes into his little hands, calling it a blessing. Amid the celebrations, Timi's cousin, Rizai, pulled EFE aside one evening. "Sister EFE, I don't mean to dampen your joy," she began hesitantly, "but be careful. Not everyone who smiles with you means well. You don't know what is in people's hearts." EFE frowned, unsure of how to respond. "Rizai, these are family and friends. Why would they harm Daro?" "I'm not saying they will. But it's better to be cautious. Babies are fragile, physically and spiritually," Rizai replied. EFE mentioned the conversation to Timi later that night. She said we should be more careful with Daro. That not everyone means well. Timi chuckled. "Hide Daro? God forbid. He's a blessing. Let people rejoice with us. Don't let fear steal our joy." EFE nodded, pushing her doubts aside. Life seemed perfect until Daro turned 4 months old. One morning, EFE went to pick him up from his crib, only to freeze in terror. "Daro," she whispered, her voice trembling. His body was alarmingly cold, his skin pale. Yet, his forehead burned with fever. "Timi!" EFE screamed. "Come quickly." Timi rushed into the room. "What's wrong?" he asked, panic etched across his face. "Look at him. Something is wrong. His body is so hot, but his skin is like ice." They rushed to the hospital. The nurses worked quickly, taking Daro's temperature and running tests. After hours of waiting, the doctor approached with a grave expression. "Your baby's blood level is critically low. We need to perform a transfusion immediately." "Low blood?" Timi repeated, confused. "But how? He's just a baby. It could be an infection or something more serious. We'll investigate further, but we need to act fast," the doctor explained. "Take my blood," Timi said without hesitation. The transfusion saved Daro's life, and his condition improved. But EFE couldn't shake the fear gnawing at her heart. 2 weeks later, the nightmare returned. Daro's fever spiked, and his blood levels plummeted again. Doctors were baffled. They conducted more tests, but the results revealed nothing conclusive. At home one night, EFE sat by Daro's crib, unable to sleep. Her mother's warning echoed in her mind: "Pray for him, EFE. Protect him spiritually." As she watched Daro's chest rise and fall, a shadow moved across the room. Her heart stopped. "Timi," she called out in a shaky voice. "What is it?" he asked, rushing into the room. "There's something in here," she stammered, clutching Daro tightly. They searched the room but found nothing. Yet, Ef's unease deepened. That night, Daro woke up screaming. His tiny body convulsed, and his eyes rolled back. "No, no, no," Ef cried. Timi scooped Daro into his arms and ran to the car. "We're going back to the hospital." At the hospital, Daro was stabilized, but the doctors were still puzzled. "It's almost as if something unseen is draining his life force," one doctor murmured. Ef's heart sank. She realized this wasn't just a medical issue, it was something far more sinister. Ef couldn't sleep that night. Even in the safety of the hospital, she felt an invisible weight pressing down on her chest. Daro's tiny hand rested limply in hers as he lay in the crib beside her. His frail body seemed so vulnerable, so exposed. Timi entered the room, carrying 2 cups of tea. "You've been up all night," he said softly, setting 1 cup beside her. "You need to rest." "How can I rest, Timi?" "Our son," her voice cracked, tears brimming in her eyes. "He's fighting something we can't even see." Timi sighed and sat beside her. "We've done everything we can medically." "Maybe," he hesitated. "Maybe what?" Ef asked sharply. "Maybe we need to seek spiritual help," he admitted. Ef looked at him, her exhaustion turning into frustration. "You think this is something spiritual?" "Ef, think about it. We've been to 3 hospitals. The doctors are confused. How can a baby's blood keep disappearing like this?" Her shoulders slumped, and she stared at Daro's pale face. Deep down, she knew Timi might be right. The next day, they visited Timi's uncle, Baba Ojan, a man known in the community for his wisdom and deep spiritual knowledge. His home smelled of burning herbs, and the walls were adorned with ancient carvings. After listening intently to their story, Baba Ojan nodded gravely. "You are not fighting a physical battle. Something dark has attached itself to your child." Ef gasped, clutching Timi's arm. "What do we do?" Timi asked. Baba Ojan stood and retrieved a small gourd from a shelf. He poured its contents, an oily substance, into a clay bowl and lit it with a match. A thin plume of smoke rose, filling the room with a pungent aroma. "Bring the child tomorrow at dawn," he instructed. "We must perform a cleansing ritual. Until then, do not leave him alone. Not even for a moment." That night, Ef and Timi kept a vigilant watch over Daro. The hours crawled by, each sound in the darkness amplifying their anxiety. At 3 a.m., Daro began to stir. His soft whimpers turned into loud cries. "Something's wrong," Ef said, lifting him from the crib. Suddenly, the temperature in the room dropped. A cold breeze swept through, even though the windows were shut. The shadows in the corners of the room seemed to stretch and move. Timi grabbed his Bible and began to pray aloud. "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." The room grew colder, and Daro's cries turned into choking gasps. Ef screamed, "No! Stay with us, Daro." In that moment, a loud knock came at the door. They froze. "Who is it?" Timi called out, his voice trembling. There was no answer. Another knock came, this time louder. Timi, clutching the Bible, cautiously opened the door. No one was there. When he turned back, Ef was on her knees, holding Daro and sobbing. "He's so cold, Timi. He's so cold." At dawn, they rushed to Baba Ojan's home. The old man was waiting for them, a circle of candles already lit around a mat on the floor. "Lay the child here," he instructed. As they placed Daro on the mat, Baba Ojan began to chant in a language neither Ef nor Timi understood. He sprinkled a mixture of herbs and water over Daro, who whimpered weakly. Suddenly, the candles flickered violently, and a gust of wind blew through the room. The smoke from the bowl thickened, forming an eerie shape above Daro. "What is that?" F whispered, her voice shaking. Baba Ocean's chants grew louder, his voice commanding. "Reveal yourself." The smoke twisted, forming a grotesque figure with hollow eyes and elongated limbs. F screamed, clinging to Timi. "It is a spirit of envy," Baba Ocean declared. "Someone has sent it to feed on your child's life force." "Who would do such a thing?" Timi demanded, his voice filled with anger and fear. Baba Ocean didn't answer immediately. He focused on the ritual, chanting louder and sprinkling more herbs onto the flames. The spirit writhed and screeched, its form growing weaker with each chant. Finally, with a deafening roar, the spirit disintegrated into the smoke, which dissipated into the air. The room fell silent. Baba Ocean slumped onto a stool, visibly exhausted. "It is done," he said. "But you must be careful. The person who sent this spirit will not stop easily." F and Timi exchanged fearful glances. Their ordeal was far from over. The morning after the cleansing ritual, Daro seemed better. His skin glowed with warmth for the first time in weeks, and his tiny giggles filled the room. F couldn't stop crying, holding him close as if afraid he might vanish. "Thank you, Baba Ocean," Timi said, bowing slightly in gratitude. The old man nodded but didn't smile. "Your battle is not over. The spirit was only a servant. Whoever sent it is still watching." F clutched Daro tighter. "But why? Why would anyone want to harm a baby?" "Envy is a powerful thing," Baba Ocean said, his voice low. "Your joy might have disturbed someone's bitterness. Do you remember anyone acting strangely when they came to see the child?" F thought back to the endless stream of visitors. Faces blurred in her memory, but one stood out, Auntie Enitan. She had arrived late one evening, bringing no gifts but insisting on holding Daro. Her sharp eyes had scanned every corner of their home, and her laughter had seemed forced. "Auntie Enitan," F murmured, her stomach churning. Timi's eyes widened. "You think she's responsible? She's family." "Family can wound the deepest," Baba Ocean said. "But do not accuse her outright. Watch her carefully. Spirits of envy often leave traces." That night, F couldn't sleep. She replayed every interaction with Auntie Enitan in her mind. The way she had stroked Daro's head, her whispered words, "Such a lucky boy," that had felt more like a curse. "Timi," F whispered in the dark. "Chem. What if Baba Ocean is right? What if it's her?" Timi sighed. "We don't know that. Let's not jump to conclusions. We'll be vigilant, but accusing someone without proof could make things worse." F nodded, though unease gnawed at her. The next morning, F decided to visit Auntie Enitan under the guise of delivering food. She packed a basket of fruit and bread, her heart pounding as she walked to the woman's small house on the outskirts of the village. When Auntie Enitan opened the door, her face lit up in surprise. "F. What a pleasant surprise. I thought I'd bring you something," F said, forcing a smile. Enitan invited her in, and they sat in the tiny parlor. The air felt heavy, and F noticed strange markings on the walls, charcoal drawings of symbols she didn't recognize. "Is everything all right?" Enitan asked, her tone sweet but her eyes sharp. "Yes," F lied. "I just wanted to thank you for visiting Daro the other day. It meant a lot." Enitan smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Of course. He's such a beautiful child. You're lucky, F." The words sent a chill down F's spine. She glanced at the table and saw a small bundle of sticks tied with red string, sitting beside a bowl of ashes. "What's that?" F asked, her voice trembling slightly. Enitan's expression darkened. Just something to ward off bad energy. F nodded quickly and made an excuse to leave. As she stepped outside, she felt a sudden, sharp pain in her chest, as if an invisible hand had grabbed her heart. She stumbled but managed to keep walking. When F returned home, she told Timi everything. She had symbols on her walls and a bundle of sticks. Timi, I think it's her. Timi paced the room, his jaw clenched. If she's involved, we can't face her alone. We need Baba Ocean's guidance. That evening, they returned to Baba Ocean and shared what F had seen. The old man listened carefully, his eyes narrowing. Those markings and the bundle of sticks are tools for binding energy, he explained. If she is the one, confronting her will be dangerous. Envious spirits thrive on fear and conflict. You must be strategic. What do we do? Timi asked. I will prepare a countercharm, Baba Ocean said. Place it near her home without her knowledge. It will reveal her intentions. The next night, under the cover of darkness, Timi crept to Auntie Enitan's house. Baba Ocean had given him a small clay pot filled with herbs and ashes. He buried it discreetly near her front door, as instructed. The following morning, Enitan showed up at their home, her face contorted with rage. What did you do? She demanded, her voice echoing through the house. Timi and F exchanged glances, their fears confirmed. I don't know what you're talking about, Timi said calmly. Enitan's eyes darted around, her composure slipping. You think you can stop me? You don't know who you're dealing with. With that, she stormed out, leaving a heavy silence in her wake. She exposed herself, Baba Ocean said when they told him. Now you must act quickly. The final ritual will sever her connection to the spirit and protect your child for good. The climax of the battle unfolded in a midnight ritual deep in the forest. Baba Ocean chanted as Timi and F stood guard over Daro. The air grew thick with tension as an unnatural wind howled through the trees. Suddenly, a shadowy figure appeared at the edge of the clearing. Enitan. Her eyes glowed with malice, and her voice dripped with venom. You can't take him from me, she screamed. Baba Ocean's voice rose above hers, his chants growing fiercer. The ground trembled, and a blinding light erupted from the center of the circle. Enitan screamed as the light consumed her shadowy form. When the light faded, she was gone. Back at home, F and Timi finally felt a sense of peace. Daro slept soundly, his face serene. But they knew the experience had changed them forever. Envy had nearly stolen their joy, but their love and faith had prevailed.